I wrote some notes because I'm still like trying to process everything, and I know I'm not going to say everything that I want to say. So we're going to first talk about kind of what it was like being in Senegal itself, and then later we're going to talk about sort of like the social forum aspect of it, because it sort of felt like while it was very much a political experience, it was very much a cultural experience too, just like being in Africa and being in Dakar, being in Senegal. And I never really studied African studies. I'd never been to Africa. It was all like totally new for me. And so I guess basically I was really honored to be a part of the delegation. I was really excited to represent Detroit. I think that was something I was very proud of, and to be part of this group, I was just like, really, I think that as a group we were just representing Detroit really well and very proud. And like during the march, we were kind of separate from the GGJ folks. We were with Project South, and we were like singing and dancing with the South Africans, and we were like coming up with our own chants in like sort of French, sort of English, and we were being really loud, and it was just like a really wonderful experience to be proud of being a Detroiter. And like also I don't know, I guess it sort of made me think about my identity as an American, because you sort of like when you're traveling, you're like you are what you aren't, and so I was always thinking about like noticing the difference in public and private space that we have in the U.S. And then when we were in Senegal and in Yoff and in Dakar, it was like there was no real differentiation that I could see. I mean, there was obviously some differentiation, but everything was out in the streets, everything was alive, and it seemed like a much less individualistic, much more communal society. And so that I've really been thinking about that a lot, because when I came back to Detroit, I was like, wow, it's empty streets and people are inside and probably watching TV. And when we were there, of course, because it was 70 degrees, like people were outside, and that made a difference. But like kids were playing outside, and everything was just out, and it was just really, it was very beautiful to see that. As a Detroiter, I guess I felt like being a Detroiter was different than being, like my identity as a Detroiter. I also was thinking about that and how. And I'll talk more about that when we talk about the social forum experience itself. But I just think, we did a really amazing job for the U.S. Social Forum. And that became apparent going to the World Social Forum, that we should be very proud of ourselves. So, but my highlights, I guess, were not the World Social Forum. The highlight for me was really meeting a lot of Senegalese students and Senegalese people. It was a culture of hospitality, more than, I haven't traveled in a lot of places, but it was definitely like the most hospitable people I've ever met. Even if you knew they were like trying to get something from you, you could still like shut them down, be like, no, I'm not going to buy your crap. But then like exchange like a meaningful dialogue. It just felt like they were warm and cool people. And we got to sit in a Senegalese or an English club at the school, because the World Social Forum was at the university, and there were about 40,000 students. There were a lot of students at this university. It's like the biggest university in Africa, and none of the students knew that the Social Forum was going to be on their campus during their school. So all of a sudden there were all these people showing up in tents and walking around, and they hadn't really been invited, but they were amazing to talk to, and it was really great because Emery, right from Project South, made the connection with the English club and was talking to them about, well, like, how do you perceive Americans? How do you perceive America? That there's no racism in America, that everybody's rich. So, okay, you're wrong. So then we sort of had an interesting conversation in their class, and then afterwards individually with people. Just like those kinds of small, meaningful exchanges, like one-on-one conversations with people were the most meaningful. And then I also just sort of noticed the parallel struggles between Dakar and Detroit. They just kept popping up everywhere, you know. It was like, oh, that's just like, oh yeah, we have a brain drain too. Or like, oh my God, we have so much unemployment too. And yeah, you know, just like everything was, I just made me feel like very much rooted in a global struggle. Whereas maybe before I had known it in my head, but then just going there, I really felt it in my heart. Yeah.